This is an evening I don't think anyone in this room or anybody on Zoom could have possibly imagined we'd be having. Any time within our immediate lifespan, it's a really unimaginable thought. We're here this evening. We have a number of speakers. We'll be davening Ma'ariv. There'll be refreshments after the program to honor an incredible individual. Just personally want to thank the Parry family for allowing us to do this Zikaron in Valley Torah High School, a place that he devoted years of his life, his blood, his toil to his Talmidim, which he did far and wide throughout the world. But I think also because of the number of children that attended Valley Torah High School, I think the place did have a special place in his heart, and for us to be able to do this really special Asif L'man Kiddush Hashem, it's a great zchus for us. Certainly one thing we cannot do is possibly understand why HaKadosh Baruch Hu took this incredible individual, such an untimely point of his life and the lives of so many of us who relied on him and looked up to him and needed him. But one thing we can say for sure, in Shemayim, him and his Rebbitzin Mindy, Zichrono Livracha, incredible couple who built an amazing family in Los Angeles, Shem Tiferes. And when I reflect upon the life of Rabbi Parry, I really reflect on the times that I knew him. I didn't really know him throughout his youth. Kept in touch a little bit later on. My ability to sort of grasp this really very, very unique individual was from the time that he was here and the year subsequent when his children were in the school. And to me, he was a very enigmatic individual in a certain regard. He defied conventional norms. You know, there are two types of members of the Orthodox community in Klal Yisrael. As they say in the vernacular, they're the FFBs, and there are non-FFBs. I don't want to call them Baalei Tshuva because we should all be Baalei Tshuva, but you know what I mean. And certainly the Baalei Tshuva world, the non-FFBs, well, we know what their virtue is. We know that those of us who are not in that category, born from families and raised a certain way, well, we know that we can't really compare. The Gemara says, Mokum shel Baal Tshuva omed ein tzadik gomer yochel lamod bo. Person who's a Baal Tshuva, who overcomes challenges, who turns around their life, who sees truth and is able to grasp it and is able to somehow separate the light from the darkness, to understand what this world is really about. Gemara says, those of us who didn't have the opportunity to sort of go through that challenge, we can't stand in such a person's place. But you really would say, on the other hand, there is a certain advantage, a certain bracha that comes from Baruch Hashem. We grew up in a Torah Dika home. Those of us who was zocheh to hear the words of Torah from our youth, do mitzvahs from the time that we were very young, there's a certain advantage, a certain comfort level, a certain connection to Torah that it's probably hard to match. Yes, the Baal Tshuva has a very special place. But the FFB, so to speak, they have a certain quality, a certain advantage. I wouldn't say it puts them in a special place, but it's certainly an advantage that they have. When you see somebody who didn't have that advantage, but who has that advantage, somebody, I asked myself really for years, the natural comfort level, and when I talk about him, because children are here, I also have to mention, because I just feel in Shemayim there's a reunification of him and his incredible first wife, Shepin and Achas, of an incredible family that they built to see L'Shem L'Teferes, the children, grandchildren, unbelievable Kiddush Hashem of what they were able to create just within their own family, forgetting about the hundreds and thousands of Talmidim that spread around the world. And the level of natural love and connection that Rabbi Parry exuded regarding his mitzvos. It's really hard to understand. How could somebody that didn't come from the time that he was a baby, how does a person have such a natural proclivity to learning Torah and to avodas Hashem and to Yireh Shamayim and all the qualities that very often take a lifetime, and even then we're just grasping at straws. And to him, it was so part of his personality. How do you acquire that? How do you get that? I'm not sure, I don't have the answer, but certainly it does seem that there's a special siyata d'shmaya. The Chovos HaLevavos talks about in Shar Cheshbon Nefesh, when a person sees Torah and sees truth, and he said, and the Chovos HaLevavos says, "V'yargol es atzmo techilol avodas Hashem shebicholto." You do what you can. And what an incredibly important message during Elul, as we get gathered together, the days of Elul, hopefully trying to develop a closer connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What can we do? What can we do to emulate this incredible person that we're honoring and memorializing this evening? What a schus would be if we can do a little bit better, get a little bit closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'yasuk bo b'asmoda, and if a person is consistent, v'yoretz v'yizdaris lasoso, when a person runs and girds themselves to do it right, and the energy and the passion and the constant love that exuded from Rabbi Parry every time he gave a shir, every time he shared a Dvar Torah, every time he did a mitzvah, there was such a natural, it just flowed from him. It was like literally part, the Chovos HaLevavos says, it becomes literally part of your personality. This is who you are. Doesn't matter when you start. What matters is how you do mitzvos and how you grow in Judaism. How do you get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? You get close to it with a unflinching commitment to continue day by day to grow and become better. And your yearning is to get better. We can't guarantee it, but a person is always striving to grow, to become closer to Hashem, to grow more in learning. What happens? Literally, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu answers that person's calling. One of the key questions that we are, in a sense, almost begged to ask during this time is, what do we really want? What is really in our kishkes? What do we really desire about this world? With Rabbi Parry, there was no question what he really desired. He desired to be a good Jew. He desired to be Yireh Shamayim. He desired to be able to teach Torah and to affect people and to raise an incredible family. That was his essence, and that's what he did every single day, and he brought it with whatever koach he had. When you do that, and you're consistent, v'yiftach lo yishari yadiyaso, it opens up, the world opens up for such a person. HaKadosh Baruch Hu opens up those gates. He strengthens a person's intellect. What an intellect. Of course, he was born with an incredible mind. He had I don't know what his IQ was, but it was way up there. But it's way more than just the natural intellect. HaKadosh Baruch Hu opens up the pathways of Torah. So a person continue to grow. And ultimately, a person's blessed with an incredible blessing from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And as the Igeres Ramban, the famous letter that Nachmanides wrote to his family and to Klal Yisrael, and he talks about how, interestingly, this is his final letter, the letter that he tells his family, please read at least once a month. Do not stop from at least once a month, read this letter and internalize these words. And how amazing, what does he talk about? He talks about midos. He talks about removing anger from your whole personality. Get anger away from you. And when you can get anger away, what happens is another takes over, humility takes over. And once humility takes over, a true sense of Yireh Shamayim takes a person over. And certainly when you think about Rabbi Parry and his brilliance and his dedication and his knowledge in Torah, and his passion by which he taught his Talmidim, and the natural love that he had for doing mitzvos, the way he greeted every person, the way he spoke to every person, the way he gave cover to every person, his really self-effacing, there was no ego, there was no kavod desire, there was nothing that really mattered to him. In every sense that I saw him, in every interaction, was only one thing that mattered: doing right and giving cover to the person I'm talking to, respecting my students, respecting my Talmidim, respecting every single Jew he came in contact with. We really are bereft of an incredible teacher, incredible example for Klal Yisrael. And yes, it's our loss, and yes, we are certainly poorer for that. But when we can pay back a little bit to a man who gave us so much, a man who gave his life to Klal Yisrael, who built a family, Shemu Tiferes, who did so much for the world, the little we can give back, we can make our lives a little bit more like his. We can take from his life the incredible passion and the love and the consistency and the self-effacing nature and the anova, the humility that he so manifested in such a beautiful way, such an amazing way. He was so impressed by him, but he's just another guy. He's one of the guys. No matter what you did, you want to talk sports, we'll talk sports. You want to go out to shoot some hoops, we'll shoot some hoops. You want to learn Gemara, even better. But whatever it takes for me to connect with you, to make you feel that you're an important person, that's what we're going to do. So we can do that, think about his life and what he left us and what we can do to internalize those messages. It'll be a tremendous, tremendous chus for the neshama. It'll be further elevated in Shemayim together with his Rebbetzin. And Bez Hashem, together they'll be a male Yosef for the Mishpacha. Mach Hashem Elokim Dimam Yalkoponim. We only should know from Simcha Nachas. A wonderful short video, just of a little bit of the life of Rabbi Parry and Shurim were put together by Mr. Jacobs. And Rabbi Parry put it together, Moshe Parry. For about 4 minutes, you can get a little bit of a sense of this very, very special man.
This holiday is called Hoshana Rabbah, but where does it fit in the Days of Atonement?
The word Hoshana means save, please, or save now, in which actually is the sealing of the Yomim Noraim, the days of awe. Conventionally, people think it's from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, but actually it extends all the way to this very day. The Talmud teaches us that in Rosh Hashanah, the entire world passes before God like sheep in Meron. But there's an individual type of judgment for the Jewish people on Rosh Hashanah, and Hoshana Rabbah is a more general type of a judgment for the entire world, but specifically for the non-Jews. But the Hoshanas, which are actually a reference to the branches, like this, which are 5 willow branches put together, are a remembrance. It's a zecher, as we say, a remembrance of what was done on this day in the temple in Jerusalem. So you notice that here we did also 7 hakafot, or 7 circuits, or rotations around the bima, holding our lulav and esrog. And then after we were done with that, we took the arovas in our hand and said more prayers over it, which are again supplications that the sealing of the judgment should go well, as if to petition God, what I have written over here, please let it enter into your consciousness so that you will, judge me favorably. So this is sort of the spirit of what we're doing also in our own synagogue.
Vayam Ashishi Parim Shnoina Elim Shnayim Kvasim B'nei Shana Arba Asar Temimim U'Minchasam V'Nizkehem LaParim LaIleim LaKvasim. Tzvas is by a couple of mosques over there. There do not exist any mosques today, and there's never been any churches there. It is a pure city in that regard. It's only monotheism has been practiced in that city since time immemorial, as far as we know.
We do love to make lessons over wine and other alcoholic beverages and stuff like that. But in this case, it actually shows that just as the fruit, the seed as it's being planted, germinates, something breaks off and something new comes of it, well, that's also what's happening in your lives as well. It's auspicious, propitious, whatever the word is, that we're so close to the ocean, we can't get any much closer, otherwise we'd all be immersing in a mikveh, the largest in the world. But that ocean over there, and you notice those waves, isn't it interesting? Since the beginning of creation, that water has been lapping up on this earth, as if to say, I want to get back that earth that was taken away from me. Because God said, let the waters recede, and there shall appear dry land. And those waves, undulating, continuously come and try to regain that land that it lost. Hopefully it'll never happen again like Noah's Ark, yet all. But that concept is that we are relentless in our efforts to improve ourselves, and to think that even if we have failed before, we have not lived up to what we want to, there's always that potential, the wave behind it that, it doesn't realize it has seen the wave in front of it, unsuccessful, but it does not stop. And that is the tenacity that we all have in life, whether we are married, whether we want to get married, or whether we are have not had a bride in a long time. So God would bless you both, that you feel that intensity. And in order to sanctify this ceremony, I'm going to now make a blessing over a cup of wine. 2 blessings.
One of the many places where Rabbi Parry Zichrono Livracha made an impact in this community and beyond was a special Makom Torah called Toras Hashem, led by Rabbi Tzvi Bloch, Yibadol Chaim, sein gesund und stark. It's a great chesed choose for Bloch to say a few words.
Amir Demois, Adam Kosher, Adam kosher man, Merklin Avainoisov. Person sheds tears, the loss of a kosher man, he's forgiven for all his sins. Avraham Parry was an Adam kosher. Was a kosher man. A man who was dedicated to Torah, to learning, to kiruv, to teaching, just like Rabbi Stulberger said, but in a little different manner. He was an ishtam v'yashar. Simple, straight, no frills, continuous, consistent, with caring, with simcha, with love. So we're gathered here in an asifa, in a gathering, for a hesped, for eulogies, for zikaron, to remember, for kavod, to give honor, and later on to say brachas, blessings, all in honor of the neshama, for Baron ben Avraham Shmuel Levi, Zichrono Livracha. That's some idea that we're all here, that we've come. It's a fulfillment of all of those mitzvahs that I enumerated. And when we go in later on to make a bracha, our conversation should focus on him, on memories, and should focus in on Divrei Torah, and not to be involved in frivolous Dvarim B'Telim, but rather to understand the seriousness of life, especially in the month of Elul. And that's why we say the passing of a comrade, of a colleague, person in a chabura amongst us all, friend. V'achai yitena liboy, those that are alive and left alive, must put this in their heart and must take this in life very seriously. Life is serious. Yes, there are moments of simcha and joy, and Hashem has granted that to us. But we have to be serious about it to know that time shouldn't be wasted. Every minute should be used. Rabbi did that. But he did it in a very unique fashion. Yes, he was an ish Torah, a man of learning and of teaching. And so when we gather here today, we're actually memorializing a fallen soldier of the Torah, a fallen soldier of Hashem's army. We're all soldiers, and we've lost one of our own. His life indeed was dedicated to teaching, to Kiruv. And he did it humbly, with a gentle spirit. He did it in a way which I was envious of. He was dan kol echad lekav zchus. He judged everyone favorably. To my knowledge, to my experience, which was vast with Rabbi Aaron, he never was judgmental, ever. So when we memorialize him today, and we shed a tear for a fallen friend, Hashem has mercy upon us all because we recognize the value of what he was. An Adam kosher, a kosher mensch, a straight mensch, a person who approached the task of Avodas Hashem with complete truth, complete dedication. He was a very deep friend of mine. We shared a lot together. Aaron first came to LA with a seed program to my shul, I think back in 1989 or 90. And he stayed after the seed program was over and remained with me and became the assistant Rav in the shul. That wasn't an easy decision because he was a Rebbe in a prominent yeshiva in New York, and the menayel of the yeshiva was reluctant to let him go. In fact, he was angry. And he registered his anger with Aaron and gave me a few nasty calls as well. And he stayed, and we developed and worked together for a good 5 years. What's fascinating about that story is that as the years passed, and Aaron and I spent lots of time together, both professionally and personally. In the last couple of years, we took a trip to New York together, and we spent time. We then took a subsequent trip to Eretz Yisrael together. It was a real chaverschaft, a real closeness, a real friendship, a real sharing of not only thoughts and ideas, but even of experiences. And we were in Muncie. I think we had first stopped at Lakewood, and Aaron was driving, and we went into a wine shop that his son-in-law has, I believe, in Lakewood. And we met two old friends that we both hadn't seen in years. We both were close to them. I don't know if you remember the Heyman family in NYU, in Eula. And we were just astounded that we had this opportunity to meet them. It's highly unusual. And both of us were close to them, and both of us met with them purely on a surprise. It was very exciting. So then we drove back to Muncie. We stopped in a restaurant to eat, and lo and behold, that person who was upset with us 30 years ago for him moving out to LA, walked into the restaurant. And the two of us sat there in absolute dumbstruck. Like, wow. And both of us were there. And he walked up to the both of us and he asked mechila. He asked forgiveness. And we just were astounded, Aaron and I, that this happened to us together. But it only mirrored and reflected all of our togetherness and the times we spent together, the years we spent together. I worked with Aaron together, actually four places. Well, once was the shul. After the shul, Aaron went to different opportunities and positions and teachings. And then when I was at the West Valley Hebrew Academy, he came and taught with me over there. Well, what's interesting, of course, is that Aaron, as Rabbi Stulberger said, was multifaceted. Sports was a very important thing that we shared together. These baseball scores, that baseball scores. And what was interesting is that Aaron had an amazing proficiency. So we took the kids to the Lag BaOmer celebration out in Malibu, and we played a student-faculty baseball game. And every pitch that came in, Aaron smashed it into the Pacific Ocean. Incredible player. And then when we went back on the basketball court, he was throwing in he was throwing in three-pointers like most people throw in layups. That's not to mention the 200 bowling games. I was jealous. But that's the idea of sharing. He shared this, of course, with his Talmidim. Took the Talmidim everywhere. Aaron as a Rebbe. Well, as I said, he was non-judgmental. That was his absolute claim to fame. Everyone felt comfortable, whatever they shared with him, because he never judged. Talmidim learned from him, enjoyed his classes. At the end of the day, they loved him. And Talmidim, by him, were lifers. You never were an ex-Talmud. Once you were a Talmud of Rabbi Aaron, you were a Talmud forever. You knew that he cared. Now, on a personal level, we shared Eretz Yisrael together. We went together for 2 weeks. We went here and there, different places, but all together as a chaverim. By this time, Aaron had rejoined me in my learning program that I have today, including the Bezdin and the Geras that we worked with, and all the Gerim that he worked with as well. So how do we understand all of this? Rabbi Stulberger tried to make some understanding. I'll try as well. It is not easy because in addition to all of us having lost a dear Rebbe and a dear friend, we have a beautiful family that lost a loving father. 9 Yisraelim, 9 orphans, who lost their mother 17 years ago. But it's an interesting thing to watch a family. My father, Zechariah Levracha, once said that a family is like a book, like a sefer. And he said that the outer bindings are mother and father, and the inner pages are the children, and that's a family. There comes a time when one binding is gone, and then another, and the pages are in jeopardy of falling apart. and that the children must remember to keep it together as mother and father would have wanted it to be. When Mindy passed away, Alaa Shalom, she called me into the room before she was nifter and asked me to maintain a very special friendship, which I already had, to maintain with Aaron and to be with Aaron. She was concerned about him in her last moments. I took that pledge. Whether we were working together or not, we stayed close. We learned together. We shared ideas together. We wrote articles together. We argued together. What's a good chaver, a good friend? Kanei lecha chaver. Why should you go out and spend money for a friend? For a Rebbe, you don't have to spend money. I say lecha Rab, get a Rebbe. If he wants money, then you're not obligated to pay. That's someone who will give you teach you for free. But a chaver, you need him desperately. Why? Because sometimes a chaver will tell you what you need to hear about yourself that a Rebbe won't tell you. Because a Rebbe maybe doesn't want to hurt your feelings. But your chaver will tell you straight because he cares about you. So how do we understand this? So I thought to myself, perhaps the passing of Nadav and Avihu, the children of Aaron. And Aaron really was, if you think about it, in the way he taught, in the way Rabbi Stulberger explained it, he was like Aaron HaKohen. Ohev Shalom, Rodev Shalom. He loved peace, he pursued peace. He was a peaceful fellow. Strong in his teachings. But Ohev Sabrias, he loved everybody. Like Rabbi Stulberger said, greeted everyone so beautifully. Umakarvan the Torah, and that's how he brought them to Torah. Master of Kiruv. So I thought about it. The children of Aaron, Nadav, and Avihu tragically are killed, are taken away by Hashem. And despite all the other issues involved, the korban that they brought that weren't supposed to bring, the simple definition of their passing is in two words. The Torah writes, B'krevai HaKodesh, I, Hashem, will develop and build a Kiddush Hashem for myself, for my name, through those that are closest to me. And through the passing of Nadav and Avihu, there will result a Kiddush Hashem. How do you understand that? So I thought perhaps along the lines of what Rabbi Stulberger said, that once we understand the beautiful person that we had, and children will remember the beautiful father that they had, and what he lived for and what he represented, all of us will become stronger in our avodas Hashem, stronger in our learning, stronger in our midos, and that will be because of him. And particularly because he was nifter, he passed away. And that's why anyone who passes away in such a tragic manner is called a kadosh, a holy person. And that's why the kroivim of Hashem, the closer ones to Hashem, develop and build a Kiddush Hashem, a sanctification of Hashem's name, because they increase by their passing greater levels of Torah, greater levels of mitzvos, greater levels of service of Hashem. When Mindy passed, Alaa Shalom, took Mindy to Eretz Yisrael. Aaron is now buried next to her. And at the baggage, where the coffin was brought, I was there at the time. and I saw a most incredible sight. One of the most incredible sights I ever saw in my whole life. I saw 9 children, arm in arm, singing to their mother, Eishes Chayil. That's what I saw. That's a family. Those are loyal children. That's the kind of mishpacha and empire that Aaron and Mindy built. Icharusa misusa. Mora says either you have a friend or it's like death. Could be you can learn another pshat. You could say, Icharusa, whether it's a charusa or whether it's misusa, it's still a charusa. The chavashaf remains, the friendship remains, the closeness remains, the memories remain. And that makes us stronger. And that gives nachas ruach to Hashem, and particular nachas ruach and pleasure to the neshama. Our gathering, and therefore all that we do tonight, is la'aliyas nishmasei for him. His neshama rises higher, it gains greater pleasure, it sees, and Rabbi Aaron realizes and sees all of his friends, all of his talmidim, all the people that loved him, that he loved, and all his family. We're all together. Aaron's in the room right now. I'll just conclude with one thought. Actually, I did want to mention that I only met Rav Pam, Zechron Levracha, the Gadol Hador, once in my life. I met him at a wedding. So I walked over to say Shalom Aleichem to Gadol Hador. Opportunity. So I mentioned him a little connection. I mentioned him that I knew Rabbi, I knew Aaron Parry. And I knew that Aaron Parry had a close shaychus, a close connection with Rav Pam. And Rav Pam looked at me and he said, Aaron Parry? What a wonderful fellow. That's what Rav Pam said about Aaron Parry. Gadol Hador, Rav Pam. Included one thing. Many divrei Torah we shared together, Aaron and I. And I remember one specifically, and I've said it over 100 times because I love it. I'm not sure where Aaron got it from, but he told it to me anyway. Maybe you've heard it, you haven't. It's Sukkot time coming. So we all have to buy the Darba Minim. We have to buy a lulav and esrog. So when we go out to buy an esrog, we want to buy the best, the cleanest, the freshest, the neatest, the nicest. It shouldn't be a chosser. It shouldn't be any holes in the esrog. It should be the most beautiful esrog possible. A chosser, if it is possible. So Aaron told me that esrog is Rosh Tevis. Aleph, Tov, Reish, Gimel. Aleph, and it's all in the area of shleimus, of the shleimus of the esrog, the completion of it. Aleph, Emunah Shleima. Tov, Tshuva Shleima. Reish, Refuah Shleima. Gimel, Geula Shleima. So Aaron said to me, if we work on our emunah to develop it to the point where it's shleima, where it's really, really deep down and as complete as possible in your mind and in your heart, then we'll be able to do tshuva shleima, a real complete tshuva, and really come close to Hashem. And then we'll be zoicha, all those that need it, a refuah shleima, good health, a complete recovery. And then we'll be all zoicha to a geula shleima, to complete geula. Mashiach Tzidkenu will come, take us all home to Yerushalayim. B'meir v'yameinu amen. Amen.
For years, Rabbi Parry davened in a shul, Mayanei Torah, developed a very close relationship with Rabbi Wolf, who's Marbitz Torah of a significant level, Baruch Hashem, in our community. It's a great chus to ask Rabbi Wolf to say a few words.
My dear friend Rav Aaron, Bashgacha Pratis, by divine providence, passed away. Parshas Chukas. In Parshas Chukas, it speaks about the passing of Aaron HaKohen. And the divine providence was like, really, I told this to Moshe, that Aaron is living in Tzvas, in Eretz Yisrael, and over there it was